It's one of the most treacherous places to live on the planet, with battering winds capable of reaching 200 miles per hour and below freezing temperatures. Yet the Antarctic, in particular the continent of Antarctica, is home to a number of interesting and strange discoveries, many of which you wouldn't think would last long in the conditions. Today, we're going to explore some of these incredible finds and facts, such as finding love in the frozen wasteland, the permanent towns across the ice, the strange creature that can help us with pollution research, all the meteorites that litter the land, and many more. So, let's get started. Sometimes you can find love in the strangest of places. In December 2013, an unnamed American scientist had signed up to Tinder before working in Antarctica. One evening, he looked at his nearby users. Since he was on a barren ice continent, there weren't any. But he decided to expand the search radius out of interest. To his surprise, he found another user. The unnamed woman, a fellow scientist, was around a 45-minute helicopter journey away. He swiped right on her. Within minutes, she returned the favor, and thus, perhaps the first match on the continent was completed. The two met a couple of times before the woman had to return to the US. As of yet, we don't know if their frozen romance continued. The rise of dating apps is big business. By 2019, Tinder was valued at $10 billion. In the same year, they apparently brought in a revenue of $1.2 billion. In 2018, the company generated $1.7 billion in revenue. After all, there's an estimated 50 million users on the platform across the globe. The United States has their own bases on Antarctica. One is called the McMurdo Station. In order to support the 1,200 residents, the station can claim the only working ATMs on the continent. After all, the station has a number of businesses, some of which only accept cash or a minimum spend if using a card. The two Wells Fargo machines were installed in 1998, but you might be wondering how they get fixed. Well, the bank actually trains some of the residents on how to make repairs on the machines. In order to restock, the cash is recycled from the businesses and placed back into the machines. Every 2 years, Wells Fargo has to send someone to update the machine's technology. Those people have to undergo vigorous psychological and physical tests. Buying an ATM that's mounted into the wall like McMurdo's can cost between $6,000 and $11,000. It can go as high as $27,000 depending on the technology. On average, an ATM goes through $6,000 to $8,000 per month. With only two in a large area, the McMurdo machines may be at the higher range of the average. For 90 years, sled dogs were key in expeditions of Antarctica. These amazing pups helped many explorers map the area by dragging heavy equipment. Such expeditions included the Norwegian Roald Amundsen during his trip in 1911 to get to the South Pole. However, by 1994, the last of the dogs in Antarctica were removed as they are now banned in the continent. The reason stems to environmental factors in the Antarctic Treaty. It stated that non-native species need to be removed. The older dogs were taken to Australia to enjoy retirement, while the younger pups went to Minnesota to be trained as working dogs. There were fears that non-native animals could pass on illnesses to the native animals. It can be pricey to own sled dogs for competition. One of the events is the Iditarod Trail Sled Dog Race, which takes place in Alaska, US. Former competitors have estimated that all the equipment and travel costs come to around $22,000. But this doesn't take into account the dogs. The cost of leasing sled dogs for just one season can be $20,000. As Antarctica is mostly uninhabited, except for researchers and animals, there isn't an official time zone for the continent. In order to know the rough time, a number of different bases will operate on different countries' time zones. For example, the US base, Palmer Station, is currently using Chile Summer Time, while Italy's Zucchelli Station is currently using New Zealand Standard Time. The station tends to select the time zone of either the country that operates the base or the country that supplies them with goods, while others will select the nearest country depending on where the station is positioned. You might be surprised to learn that time zones and daylight savings can actually affect the wallet. In 2015, a study was conducted by Jennifer Doliak and Nicholas Sanders. It examined the extension of daylight savings in the US during 2007. They found that there was a 7% decrease in robberies. This decrease amounted to an extra $59 million in annual social cost savings. We're now on the largest all-year land animal that calls Antarctica its home, yet they're only between 1 to 2 millimeters in length. Penguins and seals don't live on the land all year round, but the Antarctic Springtails do. which gives them the nickname of the elephants of the Antarctic. In Australia, the springtail is considered a pest, but in Antarctica, they might just be one of the most important creatures around. This species is highly sensitive to environmental changes. The Antarctic springtails aren't able to leave the area and go into another country. As such, they've been stuck there for 5 million years. So, scientists have been able to discover just how bad our pollution has become through the springtails, as scientists have seen microplastics within springtail's system. In 2019, scientists put together a total financial cost that plastics have had on the world's marine life. They took into account the 1 to 5% decline of benefits that humans had of the water, especially in relation to the estimated 8 million tons of plastic pollution that enter the oceans each year. The total cost came to $2.5 trillion per year. Out of all of Antarctica's 400 known subglacial lakes, there is one that stands out more than the others with its massive size. It's called Lake Vostok. It's around 160 miles long and covers 4,830 square miles. The lake was named after Vostok Station, the Russian-operated base in Antarctica. The water in the lake is provided by the melting of nearby ice. This helps make the lake a unique environment for life. Other lakes in Antarctica, such as Lake Mercer, have millions of bacteria teeming in the cold waters, while Lake Whillans contained many more important nutrients for the world's ecosystem. If you want to witness the subglacial lakes in Antarctica, you can, but it comes at a steep price. Costs can be from $6,000 to $49,000 through travel agencies. This depends on whether you go via cruise or plane or how long the trip is. But if you want to experience an expedition, it can cost as much as $64,000 per person. That doesn't take into account the costs that get to Chile in order to begin the trip. More meteorites are found in Antarctica than anywhere else in the world. However, scientists state that meteorites fall all over the Earth equally. The reason more are found far south is due to the cold temperatures. As the rocks contain a lot of iron, they react more prominently with warmer, more humid environments, and thus degrade quickly. Plus, the Antarctic is barren and mostly covered in snow and ice. As such, spotting meteorites is far easier compared to the Amazon rainforest. Due to this, America's National Science Foundation and NASA funded ANSMET. This stands for Antarctic Search for Meteorites. They scour the continent to track down these meteorites. From 1976 to 2017, over 22,000 meteorites were found by ANSMET. The cost of funding ANSMET is said to be around $1 million a year. For comparison, the trips to the moon to bring back 850 pounds of rock samples cost around $150 billion today. Due to the large number of samples recovered in Antarctica, in 2011, the Smithsonian had to build 10 specially crafted shells to hold the meteorites, all for the price of $500,000. In the whole of the continent, there are only 2 civilian towns. The first is Esperanza Base. In 2014, 55 residents occupied the small town. This small ice town was first created in 1953 by Argentina. The other town is Villa Las Estrellas. This town was created by Chile and is the biggest of the two. With a summer population of 150 people and 80 during the winter, Villa Las Estrellas has a school that has the only 3 computers in town that have internet access. Due to the isolation of Antarctica, it is very difficult and costly to build new settlements, but on occasion, international governments will splash the cash. In January 2020, Brazil opened the doors on their new research base to replace their old one, Comandante Ferraz Antarctic Station. The previous station was destroyed due to a fire in 2012. The new station is twice the size of the previous model. It can hold 64 people and cost $100 million to build. In 2000, the Antarctic was home to another world record, this time for producing the world's largest iceberg. Given the unimaginative name B-15, it was 183 miles long, 23 miles wide, and had a surface area of 4,200 square miles. By 2003, B-15 broke up into smaller pieces and began to float away from its home. NASA kept an eye on the massive structures. As of 2018, the last remaining piece traveled over 6,600 miles away from Antarctica, but it got close to warmer seas around the South Georgia Islands near South America. Most icebergs don't last long that close to the equator. If you fancied seeing icebergs, but perhaps were put off by our earlier costs of visiting Antarctica directly, we have the next best thing. If you take a trip to Greenland, you can witness many of the massive ice structures around the island. For a 5-day trip to witness the Arctic Circle, it can cost nearly $3,000. This doesn't take into account the plane cost to arrive at Iceland's Reykjavik airport to begin the journey. In 2018, a study was published by a group of scientists from the Ice Sheet Mass Balance Intercomparison Exercise, or IMBY. The researchers examined just how much ice Antarctica lost in 25 years due to the effects of climate change. They found it amounted to more than 3 trillion tons of ice. The massive amount of melting ice is believed to have caused the sea level to increase by 7.8 millimeters, or around 0.3 inches. If all of Antarctica's ice melted, the sea level would increase by 190 feet. The cost of rising sea levels could have a big impact on the world's economy. In 2018, a study conducted by the UK National Oceanographic Centre estimated that the financial implications could cost the world $14 trillion a year by the year 2100. In the US, a study was conducted by the Center for Climate Integrity in 2019. They discovered that in order to combat the effects of rising sea levels by building seawalls at coastal cities, it could cost as much as $400 billion. And that's it. Would you ever want to visit Antarctica? Or have you already been? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more, please like, share, and subscribe. All of these actions really help us out. Finally, thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next time.